I'm watching every single Planet of the Apes movie, and today we talk about... You ever lived through a global pandemic that wipes out a significant portion of the human population and shuts down everything in the world around you?
If you have fever and cough or sore throat, stay home.
Oh fuck, wait, hang on. I've noticed that most people who like these Planet of the Apes movies love Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This is kind of the staple of these new Apes movies, and this time around we have a new director, Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves really reinvented the Planet of the Apes franchise more than anyone, in my opinion. He reinvents what a Planet of the Apes movie means. Caesar is fronted as the main character, and these last few movies are very specifically about apes rather than the humans. He flipped the whole franchise on its head by making the main character an ape, rather than a human trying to find his way home from an alien planet. This movie establishes a whole new world that has been built around the crumble of human society with the simian flu spreading throughout the world. We are now in a world of turmoil. Apes are living in their own society in the woods, and humans are scrounging for any semblance of survivability that they can find. I really love the atmosphere of this movie and the darker tone that it brings after the brighter tone of Rise in the last movie. It's definitely a sequel, but in a very disconnected way. We have lapsed 10 years in the future from the events of Rise of the Planet of the Apes. This movie opens with various news reports and clips of the simian flu spreading through the entire world, and we're seeing like Indiana Jones lines go over and back and forth across the whole world. It spread like a wildfire. This is due to the pilot at the end of Rise who got on a plane and infected a ton of people with the simian flu. Genesis Labs catches a stray here, and I think that's well deserved, seeing as they destroyed the world. I mean, Will Rodman might have cured Alzheimer's temporarily, but he did in turn kill millions of people and destroy the world. This movie instantly starts with a darker, more serious tone. This ain't your grandpappy's Planet of the Apes. This is a young man's game. The first shot is a slow dolly shot out of Caesar's face with war paint in the rain, surrounded by his apes and it like a militia. We learn that Caesar now has a son, and he's with him on this hunting expedition. The score rocks here. It's done by Michael Giacchino. He's great. He's come up in the last few years, having done the Batman and a lot of other stuff. They scare some deer into another group of apes, hurtling them into one position, and the apes are now incredibly intelligent and have developed some sort of sign language so that they can communicate with each other. The beginning scene of this movie I feel like is super important, especially establishing where we're going from Rise of the Planet of the Apes onward. This almost feels like another reboot. Shortly after they're done looking for the deer, Caesar and his son encounter a giant grizzly bear who attacks them. This scene specifically makes me sad because bears are like my favorite animal in the entire world, and I feel like I hate seeing them get hurt, but then Koba comes in with this crazy flying fucking Superman stab with a spear, and I can't say anything but hell yeah. We see that Caesar and his son have a bit of a rocky relationship. Caesar is now the king of this new civilization and is having trouble juggling being a father and being a leader for the rest of the apes. The new ape city is awesome. It's carved out of this like mountainside, and it's all built out of wood, and it's a bunch of structures. It's really cool. I just love the design of these Reeves movies, man. And this is a good time to talk about Weta Digital. They do the visual effects for these movies, and that includes the motion capture for all the actors, and creating all of the apes and the surroundings that inhabit this world. And that includes bears and elk too. So I guess they do a bunch of animals. There we go. Yet again, no real animals, and I think it's insane that I am so bought into a movie that is driven by CGI apes. Like, they really pulled this off to the point where I am super in no matter what happens. And I didn't get to mention my favorite character, Maurice, when we talked about Rise of the Planet of the Apes. He has a lot less to do in that movie, but this one he becomes a core member of Caesar's cabinet, essentially. Maurice is an orangutan that showed signs of intelligence before he was given the ALZ-113. He rocks, and he's the moral foundation of Caesar's whole kingdom. Caesar's wife is introduced, and she gives birth to Caesar's new son, who is introduced to Caesar's older son, and they have a nice little family. Next we see two apes, one being Caesar's oldest son out on some sort of scouting mission, and they interact with a group of humans who pull a gun on them. A gunshot shakes the forest and an ape is down. It's not Caesar's son, but it's Rocket's son, Ash. Rocket is one of Caesar's main guys. Like, a few of the guys from Rise came over to this movie and became like his core guys. So we have Maurice, Rocket, and Koba are like the three main ones. Caesar and a huge group of apes go and confront the humans, and he yells, "Go!" telling them to leave the woods. The humans scatter off, but one of them drops their bags, and Maurice picks it up, and it's a teenage boy's art book. The apes follow the humans to the human encampment, which is led by, oh hey, Gary Oldman's here. I love that guy. This guy losing his mind over the apes is really, really funny. His name is Carver, and he's incredibly integral to the story here, so keep him in mind. We see the human city. It's a ruined San Francisco. This shit looks like The Last of Us. The sets are so fucking good in this movie. They're running with no real power, so they need to get through the woods to a dam past the apes so that they can restore power to San Francisco. The apes do recon and have a meeting on what they should do. Koba is already showing that he really wants to fight the humans. Just want to say it again, the motion capture in these movies is incredible, and it only gets better here. It's a whole rung up from Rise. It's amazing. The apes have horses in this one. That's awesome. They're going to the human city to talk. Essentially, Caesar shows up and tells them, fuck with the apes, you get the horns. or however that saying goes. Jason Clarke plays the main human, who is named Malcolm, and he goes out to talk to Caesar. This scene of like a giant group of apes confronting like a giant city of humans is probably enough to make the original creators of the Planet of the Apes movies from the 70s shed a tear. Like, this is truly their vision fully realized. Caesar can speak a little bit, but he has a bit of a broken dialect, which I think really works for the world that they've built up here. They give the teenagers art bag back, and they set the boundary of the woods as the place where the apes live. I really love the post-apocalyptic setting of this one, where it's just kind of the end of the world, and I think it really harkens back to the second movie where they go into the human city and find humans. The main crux of this story revolves around the humans looking for power, and I mean literally electricity, and the apes not trusting humans to peacefully coexist. Jason Clarke goes to the woods and tries to deliberate with Caesar how they can work in the dam and also not disturb the ape society. This movie is deeply about trust and how you see other people through your own worldview. Caesar is trusting of the humans and allows them to go work in the dam. He really lets his connection to Will Rodman from the last movie cloud his decision making when it comes to leading the apes, which allows for Koba to challenge him in the future of this movie. And to me, yet again, I think a lot of the conflict this movie revolves around the use of weapons. Dawn is very akin to a lot of the earlier Planet of the Apes movies where they establish a political issue in human society and reframe it around the ape society and how that interacts with each other. And I think the framing device of using the apes as a reflection of our own society is incredible, and I think it works really well, and I think that's why these movies succeed. I think Dawn does a really good job of making a really solid action film while also doubling back to what the original creators intended when they made Planet of the Apes. The introduction of weaponry and guns is where the ape society starts to crumble yet again. We've seen this before. This does a much better job than the Tim Burton movie. Oh my god, get it away, get it out! And it shows the actual power struggles between the humans and the apes, and eventually an even smaller mutiny of apes. All that to say, I think this shot of the apes destroying the gun is really funny. Carver is a loose cannon and no one really likes him, but they eventually realize they have to bring him to the dam because he's the only one who knows how to work it. Maurice jump scares the human kid and is interested in his books, and the apes and the humans are making a connection despite their differences. I love when the apes ride horses, it's so fucking cool. We see humans testing guns in an armory when Koba and a few other apes show up and start looking at what they're doing. Koba thinks the humans need to be destroyed. They decide to go back to Caesar and tell him about the arsenal of weapons. Meanwhile, the humans continue work on the dam. There's a huge explosion and Carver is covered in the debris, but he is pulled out by other apes and it shows that there's a connection of trust between the humans and the apes by this point. Caesar's youngest son shows up, the little baby, and starts to play with the humans and everyone thinks he's cute, but then he gets into a box of Carver's and he finds a gun. Carver freaks out and starts running at the ape, and Caesar almost beats the living hell out of him for this. Caesar then finds the gun and launches it into the lake, and this has wavered the trust of Caesar in the humans. He tells them all to leave, and honestly at this point, I'm just figuring out the dam myself. Fuck that guy Carver, get him out of here. Back at the city, Caesar's wife is very ill. Malcolm runs back up to Ape City to deliberate with Caesar a little more, and this time he brings his girlfriend who is a medical doctor. She offers to help Caesar's wife, and in return they get to work together on the dam again. Carver is sent back to the truck.
See you tomorrow, asshole.
Koba reports to Caesar's son about the weapons that they found in the armory, which drives a wedge even further between Caesar and his son. The apes and the humans are now working together at the dam. Koba shows up and rivals Caesar, telling him that he favors humans over apes. It gets a little hostile, but Maurice stands up for the kid. I fucking love him, man. He's the GOAT. Toby Kebbell plays Koba, and I think he does a really, really good job. And obviously, Andy Serkis is doing amazing work here for Caesar. It's incredible. It's even better than the last movie. And I'm gonna say that for the rest of the movies. He just keeps getting better. Caesar bitches the fuck out of Koba and puts him in his place. Ape, not kill ape. Koba now has a chip on his shoulder to get back at Caesar. Koba goes back to the armory and slaughters the humans that were there, taking a gun for himself. So this movie kind of works in two parts, where the dam is kind of the first half of the movie, and then the second half of the movie is like one giant battle and like power restructuring of the apes. Koba brings weapons back to the apes, and Malcolm, with the help of the apes, has restored power to the city. This set with the gas station all up in like a post-apocalyptic forest is really cool looking. Carver is ambushed by Koba and killed in the truck. Caesar brings the humans back to Ape City, where they get to see the entire human city lit up in the skyline. Then Koba and his goons set Ape City on fire. Koba attempts to assassinate Caesar. Caesar is shot and seemingly falls to his death. The ape community is in turmoil, and Koba rises up and takes leadership of the apes, saying they have to go avenge Caesar by killing all the humans. Caesar's son takes Koba's word for it and goes to attack the humans. Maurice says to the other humans in Ape City, Koba just started a war, and he plans on striking first on the human city. Back at that city, the humans are now very much out in the streets celebrating that the lights are back on, and the radios are on, and everything is back. Gary Oldman's iPad is charged, and he's going to watch the latest Billy Advanced video. Nah, I'm joking. He's looking at pictures of his dead children and family. Just as they get the radios working, the apes raid the armory. The apes gear up, and they're ready for war. Surely none of them will dual-wield an LMG while riding on horseback. Now we have reached the battle. Or the war. Or... fuck. The conquest Shit, I don't know. We've reached the feud of the Planet of the Apes. Apes are falling in droves, but they're pressing on to destroy the humans. Caesar's son is realizing that it might not be worth it as he sees all of his people falling and dying in battle.
Oh my fucking god, he did it, oh my fucking god.
The fights between the humans and the apes in this movie really put the originals to shame. Like, it is incredible what we've achieved with filmmaking. Giving the apes personality and character really takes it up a notch when you're doing a battle because you care about either side. And it's super interesting that through all the layers, you really just see one ape's ploy for power. The humans bring out a tank, which throws me for a loop every time. Like, I know they have a military base, but I don't know why I'm never expecting a tank to show up. Oh, and the apes took over the tank. This shot is incredible, where they just fastened a camera to the lid of the tank and watch the apes attack the guy driving it and then drive it into the wall of San Francisco. It's really cool. We see the parallels of these two societies burning, with Ape City literally burning and San Francisco being invaded.
Whoa, Caesar survived the gunshot and the fall. Oh my god, we have more movie left.
Caesar is rescued by the human crew, and they bring him back to the city to try and stop Koba. He tells the humans that it was not a human who shot him, but rather an ape. Ape, not kill ape. Koba is forcing a young ape, Ash, to kill somebody, but in the name of Caesar, Ash refuses, to which Koba responds by throwing him off a ledge and killing him. This is not the ape way. Ape, not kill ape. The humans get back to the city with Caesar, and he brings them to his old home, the place he lived with James Franco. It's nice that they tied this into Rise more thoroughly, because they really didn't need to after such a long time jump. We see a picture of Will Rodman, and then humans are all placed in cages, as well as any ape sympathetic to Caesar.
Maurice, no, get him out, please get him out.
Malcolm goes back to the human city to get a med kit for Caesar when he runs into Caesar's son. He brings him back to Caesar to show that he's alive, and Caesar and his son team up to go back and fight Koba. See, I told you the window was important. I said it in the last video, and I bet some of you didn't believe me. That window's important now, isn't it? It's the symbol for Caesar in these movies, and I think it's really great imagery. Caesar's son breaks out all the apes and the humans that were caged up in Koba's city. Caesar, still recovering, goes up to his old room and finds a camcorder. On this camcorder, he watches a video of him and Will Rodman learning how to sign. The ape squad returns to the house, and they decide to go into the city through the tunnels. Final set piece of this movie is set in a giant tower in the middle of the city that the humans have made their base of operations. Malcolm runs into Gary Oldman, whose name in this movie, by the way, is Dreyfus. I just didn't call him that because I like Gary Oldman. Dreyfus tells Malcolm his plan to blow up the entire building from the bottom. He's rigged the whole foundation with C4. Caesar is going to the top of the tower to fight Koba. Malcolm pulls a gun on Dreyfus and his crew and tells him he can't blow up the tower. He has to give Caesar more time. Koba calls Caesar weak, and Caesar drops the fucking return of the century.
Koba, weaker.
The final battle between Koba and Caesar coincides with the battle between Malcolm and Dreyfus. I love the fight between Koba and Caesar because they're just picking up hunks of metal and slinging them at each other. Oh my god, now they're swinging on chains. Holy shit, this is so cool. Dreyfus mentions that they made contact with a military base up north. This will come into play in the next movie. Dreyfus blows up the building and all hell breaks loose. Apes are swinging and falling and dying. After the blast, Caesar gets up and starts helping the apes around him, while Koba just lets them die. Koba starts shooting at Caesar and a bunch of apes, killing a few, when Caesar turns around and hits him with his own Superman slam from the top ropes. Koba is now hanging from a ledge, preaching Caesar's ape doctrine right back at him when he says, "Ape, not kill ape." Caesar pulls him up only to say this:
You are not ape.
And then drops Koba to his death. The apes are in disarray, but Caesar has saved his people from war. For now. Overall, I feel like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes has a lot to do with there are bad leaders wherever you go. Even people you trust the most can turn on their people for power. This movie also just rocks. Like, bottom line, it's so good. A lot of people have this movie as their favorite Apes movie, but for me, it's a little lower down. And that doesn't have to do with the quality of this movie, it has to do with the quality of the others for me, and I just find myself so engaged with the others. But we'll talk about that when we rank them. This really establishes what most people my age think of when they think of Planet of the Apes as a franchise. And wow, is it a far cry from the originals of the 70s. As I get to this point in the series, I find myself reflecting a lot more on the history of Planet of the Apes. The franchise has changed and adapted so many times over the years with the differences in filmmaking and the climate of the industry every time a new installment is released. I find it very inspiring that these movies are able to reinvent themselves over and over and still pull an audience to some degree. I love Dawn, I love Caesar, I love Gary Oldman. Next time, War for the Planet of the Apes. If you enjoyed this video, you should subscribe. I'm covering movie franchises one by one, and I have a bunch of videos just like this one covering every Planet of the Apes movie up until this point. Now, if you really enjoyed this video, and I mean really loved it, there's a way to support me personally and get these videos a day early if you'd like, and that's through my Patreon. It's $1 a month. If you want to, go for it. If not, no stress. It is linked below. And if you made it this far into the video, Leave in the comments what franchise you think I should do next. I'm going to start reading them and taking them into account, start working on the next franchise soon. But yeah, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.